It's been a busy offseason in Pittsburgh. They re-signed some of their own biggest free agents and made some moves on defense. Hunter Hodies of Locked On Penguins is with us to break it all down and tell us what we can expect from the Penguins in 2022, 2023. All that and more on this episode of the Locked On NHL Podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. It's my pleasure to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Penguins, Hunter Hodies. And Hunter, an interesting offseason in Pittsburgh. I guess the biggest headlines: Evgeni Malkin, Kris Letang staying in Pittsburgh. What does that mean for the Penguins this year and beyond?
Yeah, it means this year, they're going to try to compete for a fourth Stanley Cup in the Sidney Crosby era. And, they basically had little choice but to bring both of these players back. I've talked about this repeatedly on my show. You look at the free agent market, there really wasn't any replacements out there. Like John Klingberg, 1 year, $7 million. I'm much more, even though Letang got a lot of term, I am comfortable with him getting $6.1 million for this year and then the next 2 years that are on Sidney Crosby's contract. After that, nothing really matters because the team is going to be bad at that point. Evgeni Malkin, he signed, 4 years, $6.1 million. Sure, term could be an issue down the road, but again, it doesn't matter right now. He took a pay cut to come here. He actually took a $3.4 million pay cut to come back to the Penguins. And he could have gotten a lot more, excuse me, on the open market. There are probably teams that were ready to give him 7.5, 8 million. But, he said, they cooler heads prevailed with that negotiation. And I think he was really upset with the team at the time when he said he was going to go to market. But I think his agent, and reportedly it was Sid, that called him and calmed him down, and they were able to negotiate the deal at the 11th hour. So in the end, they brought back the two best players that were available on the market for their respective positions. And, it helps them compete right now. And it also means at the end of the line, it's going to be basically 2 decades worth of 3 elite players playing in the same city. It's just that stuff you kind of it's almost unheard of in sports. And you get to see them break, I think, more records, either team or league wise, by the end of the contracts, and hopefully potentially one more Stanley Cup.
So what do you think the window is at this point to get that Stanley Cup?
The window, I would say it's the next, 2 to 3 years, because Crosby only has 3 years left on his contract. And, by all indications, I think he does want to play past that deal. I think, he'll want to play until he's 40, maybe 41. I don't think he's going to be like Yager over here. He's playing until 50, but, he definitely, with how well he trains during the off season, with how just he's not slowing down at all, I think he's going to want to play past his contract. He's 35 now. He'll be, I believe, 38 by the end of his deal. That's mainly the window here for the Penguins. I think they're going to do everything possible to go get that final Stanley Cup. A lot of it obviously comes down to goaltending. I still think they're a forward or two away from being as deep as they were last year. But I feel like right now they are a playoff team. It's just a matter of, can they add a player or two that can really lift them back up to being a contender like they were, 2016, 2017, heck, even 2018, 2019.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. Now, that was what stayed the same, bringing back the two big guns, but the defense core has changed. Talk about the changes, and do you think this is a better starting top 6, top 7 than it was at the end of last season?
Yeah, I mean, Ron Hextall is always full of surprises. I got to say, did not have that on my bingo card. I was like, you know what? Maybe they'll trade a defenseman or two. get some draft picks back. Okay, whatever. We got some guys in the system. Did not think I'd be seeing Mike Matheson getting traded for Jeff Petrie. Did not think I'd be seeing Ty Smith coming back for John Marino. I think the fact of the matter is Hextall and the front office, they were not happy with the defensive core after the playoffs. They saw what happened against the Rangers where they were kind of bullied in front of the net a few times. I mean, I don't want to harp on John because I enjoyed his tenure here in Pittsburgh, but he basically gave the puck on a silver platter to Mika Zibanejad with less than 6 minutes remaining in the third period of Game 7. If someone like Jeff Petrie's right there, or even going way back like a Ben Lovejoy, they're ripping that sucker around the boards, and they're not letting someone like Zibanejad get the puck. So I think a moment like that definitely stuck in Ron's head. But I also think, again, they wanted to get better in front of the net, but they also wanted to get heavier on the back end. And I know that's frowned upon these days. I use analytics when I evaluate players. I'm not one of those old heads out here who just dismisses analytics and stuff. But, the fact of the matter is I thought the Penguins were a little soft defensively. And I think these moves really help that. A Letang, Petrie top, on your 2/3 of your right side being Kris Letang and Jeff Petrie, that's legit. And people, I've seen people say that, oh, well, Matheson's just as good as Petrie. No, he is not. I like Mike. I think he had a great year, probably the best year of his career. Is he Jeff Petrie, even though Petrie's 35? No, he's not. He was a Norris contender for much of the shortened season. And then at the start of this season, he was also really good. So he's still kicking just fine. Ty Smith, I think, is a really intriguing player. He played really well in his rookie year in New Jersey, struggled last year in Lindy Ruff's system. I think if he can, be coached up by Tar Reardon, who really helped Matheson and plays in an offensive system that suits his game, I think he can be a staple in this team's top 6. And went on and signed Jan Ruda. Looking back on it right now, he's still got 9 defense. And I'm like, okay, kind of a little weird, but he also good defensive player in his own zone. Not going to bring you a ton of offense, but, has that Stanley Cup pedigree, as I'm sure Hextall loves. And, he can give you solid minutes on the third pairing. So overall, Gil, I think right now, if you look at this defense compared to last year's with the changes, I think this unit is better than last year's.
The obvious question when it comes to the Penguins is often goaltending. We know injuries played a part the last couple of years in that department, but how comfortable are you with the goaltending you've got with training camp a month away?
Well, that's the $1 billion question. I'll say this, it's a curious decision. This is now year 3 of the same old stuff. But, you got to have one or both stay healthy. That's the thing. And, you can't prepare for both of your goalies to get hurt or not play. Right. You usually rely on one of them. But, this is a huge year for someone like Tristan Jarry. Contract year. You're making $3.5 million. If you have a really good regular season and you actually ball out in the playoffs a lot more than you did against the Islanders, you will get paid, whether it's by the Penguins or whether it's by someone else. Right now, I actually just talked about this on an episode last week. I'm hesitant to give him money right now just because he is still a little bit unproven. I thought he had a great regular season last year, but is he going to repeat being a 920 to 925, heck, even a 930 goaltender for much of the year? He regressed a little bit down the stretch because, he's playing a lot and was, I think, banged up a little bit before he got hurt against the Islanders. But, it's still a tough gamble. And, for DeSmith, what version of him are you going to get? Are you going to get that first year half of him, or first half part of the year of him, where he can't stop a beach ball playing like an ECAHL goaltender? Or are you going to get someone who was a kind of a 1B goalie in the second half and put up some of the best, no hyperbole here, put up some of the best numbers in the league? He was, I believe, 925 in the second half of the year, just a complete 180 from where he was. Capable backup, but he just has to prove that through an entire season. So there's definitely a lot of questions. I think if it doesn't work out, the management staff, they should face criticism for it. But, I think it's a wait and see right now. I'm definitely a little nervous about it. But, the fact of the matter is the goaltending market also this year, that's kind of playing in my head. I'm like, okay, I can see why they didn't want to go out into the backup market when you see like Billy Husso getting his money and Darcy Kemper with his starting money. I think they were just like, okay, we'll run this back, $5.3 million to the goaltending, and we'll maybe kick this kick this down the road.
All right. Well, it'll be interesting to watch how this unfolds. Hunter, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find the Locked On Penguins podcast wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. The YouTube channel has over 600 subscribers. We're still on the road to 1K. I'm hoping to get that either by the season or sometime during next season. That would be fantastic. You can follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodies. And we're getting ever so close to training camp.
All right, Hunter, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
Today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. If you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you are depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. And guess what? There's a new flavor. Ready? Delicious, indulgent cookie dough covered in chocolate. That's right. Built has done it again. Let me introduce you to your new favorite cookie dough chunk puffs. They have a light and chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks, and of course, like all Built Bars, they are covered in 100% real chocolate. You get all the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of having to make it, plus it's healthy for you. Cookie dough chunk puffs are only 160 calories, and they have a whopping 15 grams of protein. What's great about Built is that all their bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. Go to Built.com right now. Use promo code LOCK15. You'll get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com.